Welcome in now on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline, a guy who has made plenty of visits to BYU Sports Nation. Glad to have him back. Stadium Sports College Football Insider Brett McMurphy. Brett, welcome back to the show.
Hey, good to talk to you guys again. I hope everyone's safe. Nice hearing your voices.
Yeah, absolutely. And we wish the same to you and your family. And obviously, without sports right now, everybody's trying to find ways to occupy their time. A lot of people are binge watching something. So what are you doing right now to occupy your time if it's not binge watching television?
Binge watching television, reporting on what's going to happen if we don't have a college football season, or if we do have a college football season, how that would materialize. I didn't know if you were aware of this or your listeners, so I will bore them with this information. I reside in Tampa, Florida. Yes, that's home of Big Cat Rescue from Tiger King fame. Yes. And I live approximately 4.7 miles from Big Cat Rescue. So if you'd like me to investigate Carol Baskin and the disappearance of her husband, let me know. I'm your guy.
Okay, so here's my first question. Have you ever visited Big Cat Rescue? And honestly, what is the buzz in the Tampa area now that that's come out and that is such a major part of this documentary that everybody has seen?
I have not visited it. I do know people that have. I do know that they've changed a lot of things since the Netflix series came out. They used to have a couple of big signs on the main street that the entrance is on. They've taken those signs down. They moved the signs to another, like a back entrance, which is actually by a running trail, which I go on quite frequently. And I think they took those signs down as well. The last time I saw the signs was a couple weeks ago, and it said by appointment only. So it used to just be you just walk in and pay admission like a zoo and go in. Now it's by appointment only. So they obviously have changed the way they're operating after the Netflix special. But yeah, it's crazy. And the sheriff here in Hillsborough County in Tampa, Florida is a good friend of mine. And he tweeted the other day, and this is not a joke. They have reopened the case.
Wow.
Into the disappearance of Carol Baskin's husband. And he tweeted it out. People have information, and put the Hillsborough County Sheriff's number. I retweeted it. And, of course, it got 1 billion retweets, and the comments are hilarious. So, yeah, it's a real thing. So that's what we've got to look for here in Tampa, Florida, that and, some lovely weather that I don't mind, mentioning that I'm very spoiled with.
Brett, I cannot tell you how happy I am that a guy that is known, in all circles as an insider for college sports, that we are talking about Tiger King with you. That makes me so happy right now.
Hey, to go one step further, I was born in Oklahoma City, grew up, spent the first 22 years of my life in Oklahoma. So Tiger King was my two worlds colliding. You had Joe Exotic from Oklahoma, and you have Carol Baskin from Tampa, Florida. So I represent neither character, but that one meant a lot to me.
Oh, Brett McMurphy, part-time private investigator into the Tiger King situation and Stadium College Football Sports Insider with us on BYU Sports Nation. Okay, now let's talk about college football, and you touched briefly on this when we first brought you in, but your articles with the Athletic or with Stadium are getting some serious run about what's going to happen if college football does not happen. Brett, how realistic is it that a season could not happen in 2020?
Well, here's the thing that's most frustrating for, I've reached out, like you said, I surveyed all 130 athletic directors, 112 responded. This week it's talking about, how optimistic we are that they will have a college football season. Next week, I'll have the survey results. I asked them, what do they see the future of the playoff? How many teams, who qualifies, those sort of things. So that's something to look forward to next week. But basically, the most frustrating thing is no one knows, the commissioners, the ADs, the coaches, everyone in human life. Nobody knows when we get the all clear. When do things return to normal? Is it tomorrow? Obviously it's not. But is it next month? Is it September? Is it January? Nobody knows. And until that happens, these ADs have all these contingency plans on what they're going to do, how they're going to try to get the season in, because believe me, they need to get the football season in. I've talked to several ADs, And I'll just quote one of them who summed it up the best. And he said, look, if we don't have a football season, we're blanked. And you can figure out what that blank is. And that's what Power 5 and Group of 5 ADs are telling me. So that means if we don't get the all clear till December or January, then you know what? They are considering we'll play in the spring. I mean, you would have laughed at me a couple weeks ago and said that's never going to happen. That's how desperately they need the revenue generated by the football programs. And what that could mean is the college football playoff semifinals, the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, the national title game in Miami. They could be played on Memorial Day. That's what we could be looking at if we don't get the all clear until January. If we get it sooner than that, some of the possibilities that ADs have brought up to me are spread the season over 2 semesters, start it in October or November, end it in February or March. You want a football version of March Madness? We may have it.
Wow.
Others have said getting rid of the non-conference schedule. Obviously, that would hit home with BYU, but that's one of the options that the Power 5 commissioners are considering. That obviously would have huge ramifications for BYU. What do they do with Notre Dame? That's what they're trying to consider. That would obviously mean that the month of September would be wiped off the slate, and then they would play conference games in October and November, and then you could still have your conference title games, your playoffs, those sort of things. What that means specifically for BYU and or Notre Dame, I have no idea. They would have to obviously play other independents or maybe find some conference teams that need to add a game. I don't know how it would be done. What is fascinating in all this, and you ask one question and then it brings up 10 other questions, is these AD schedule games 50 years out ahead of time. Well, they're going to have to redo their schedule in 5 minutes, and that's a very real possibility. So I've rambled on enough, so fire away. But the biggest issue is right now, it's just the uncertainty surrounding everything.
Well, and I think the word catastrophic is probably an appropriate word, and it goes to what you were talking about in terms of, if the season is canceled or shortened from a financial standpoint, what this means to college football. Look, nobody's going to want to or be okay with losing the revenue, but there are certainly programs that can handle it better than others. How catastrophic is this going to be for some of these programs that barely get by if they have to deal with a canceled season or even a shortened season?
No, you're right. I mean, there's not a CFO on the face of the earth when they're planning their budget 10 years ago said, you know what, we need to squirrel away X amount of money because we won't have college football in 2020. Nobody thought of that. Now, you may say our ticket revenue may be down 15% or 20%, but we're still going to get our TV money. We're still going to get donations. We're still going to get all these things. So you're right. There's a small number of Power 5 programs, I think, that would survive. It could miss a season without the revenue. I don't think it's a great number. I think maybe 24, maybe 30, maybe 36. I don't know. I don't think all of Power 5 would be able to take a hit like that. Certainly, I find it hard to believe any of the non-Power 5 schools would be able to survive. I mean, Power 5 ADs told me, if we don't have a season, it's going to get ugly. I had a Group of 5 AD tell me, we will go out of business. The consequences of that is you would immediately eliminate or cut Olympic sports, the non-revenue sports, all of these sports that lose money every year. Without the football program to keep those guys afloat, they would either turn those sports back into club sports for a couple of years or maybe permanently. Who knows? Then you bring in the Title IX. How does that all come into play? I mean, there's so many different things. But yeah, there's absolutely. That's why they're thinking of some of these weird, wacky options that we never would have thought of a few weeks ago, because they've got to figure a way to get some of this revenue. Bob Bowlesby said last week, the Big 12 commissioner, we may be playing games without fans in the stands. That's a very real possibility. I'm afraid, and I hope I'm wrong, I'm afraid none of the universities will allow on-campus studies in the fall. That's just my guess on this. Again, I hope I'm wrong. Well, if you can't have students on campus, how are you going to have student athletes? And if you can't have student athletes on campus, you can't have a season. And so that's some of the things that the ADs and commissioners are looking at. But again, it all goes back to everyone's waiting until they get the all clear signal so everything can move forward. I'm worried and concerned. I hope I'm wrong about the fall, but I don't know. But these are some of the situations that these schools and ADs may find themselves in.
Fascinating, thought-provoking stuff from Stadium Sports college football insider Brett McMurphy. He's on BYU Sports Nation. Brett, a lot of people still want to wear the rose-colored lenses and think, oh, it's all going to blow over. It's going to be okay. That said,
I hope they're right.
I know. What's the drop-dead date for college football to maintain a regular start schedule in terms of athletic directors deciding or to get the all clear? So what is the date that everything has to be okay for college football to proceed normally?
Larry Scott, the Big 12 commissioner, told John Wilner of the Mercury News the other day that he thinks by the end of May that would be an approximate deadline for determining the direction of preseason and the college football regular season. Now, that doesn't mean at the end of May they're going to say, hey, there's no season or we're moving to the spring. I think they would say at the end of May, look, we can start immediately or we're not going to be able to start. And, it's not immediately, but on schedule. The season starts the last week in August. So I would say, probably I'd probably extend that a month. I'd say by July 1st, we'd have to know if there's an all clear to resume as scheduled. And as Larry Scott said, the optimistic model is an extended training camp. The most pessimistic is that there's no season at all. So, I think by June we'll have an idea if we can start on time, and if not, then it's just a matter of waiting until, again, everyone's given the all clear to proceed, and then based on that all clear, is it conference only games? Is it split over 2 semesters? Is it played in the spring? That all those things will kind of have to be decided.
Yeah, there's certainly no fast forward option. And when you get the all clear, teams still have to have opportunity to train and get ready. So
absolutely,
this is a very complicated situation. Brett, we appreciate the time, and we know how much research and work you've put into this. How do people find more of this so that they can get their college football fix as we push forward to what we hope is the 2020 season?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Brett_McMurphy, and then all of my written content and online videos will be at watchstadium.com. So I usually tweet out the links on my Twitter account. So that's probably the best way to find me. Or if I go for a jog out by Big Cat Rescue, just holler at me.
Yeah, if we need you to do some investigative reporting for us, we will definitely be in touch with the Big Cat Rescue there.
Hey, real quick. Booger McFarland of ESPN, obviously an LSU grad. I worked at ESPN with him. He lives here in Tampa, and we were going to get a picture of both of us standing by the Big Cat Rescue sign wearing LSU Tigers shirt saying Tiger Kings, but then they've taken down the sign, so now we can't do it. So lost opportunity.
Oh, that would have been viral gold, that's for sure. Brett, great to talk to you. Always classy, and we'll do it again soon. Thanks so much.
Sure, reach out anytime. Stay safe.
You got it. Brett McMurphy on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, you know why, we show how.